welcome to An Abundance of Books. My name is Julia and we're here today to talk about some audiobooks. I was inspired to do this video by my current read, How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying. I'm over halfway, somewhere through there. And I think that if you are not listening to the audiobook portion of this, you are having a wildly different experience than if you are just reading the physical version. I might have said the same thing twice, but you know what I mean. So that got me thinking about other books where the audiobook contains some essential component that you might be missing. And so I have a selection to talk through today. I should clarify, these are not the best audiobooks. Some of them are the best audiobooks, but these are more capturing that specific piece that you won't get if you're just reading it with your eyes. So starting with How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying, this is a funny book. This is humor. It is very on the nose, pop culture referencey, and the audiobook narrator is doing such an incredible job of making it not the most annoying thing you've ever heard in your life. I didn't look up all the narrators before, but I will flash them on the screen as they come because this narrator is doing such an incredible job. They are making this character so much more likable than if they were just the words on a page. Being able to add those inflections and sarcasm makes the main character Davi feel so much more real and like someone you want to root for rather than someone you're just like kind of biding your time with. She's also doing an incredible job on all of the other voices. This is such a good audiobook, can't recommend it enough. Remains to be seen what my rating for this book will be. Another one that's a bit of a recent read for me, Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I did a reread of this for a book club and I found the audiobook so much more engaging because I haven't read this since like 2019 and I noticed going back into it, the writing is very sparse. It's very to the point where it almost becomes amateurish, where it's like, I walked to the door, I opened the door. Like there's zero prose to this thing, but having your narrator, Jason, tell you everything, it feels much more natural in his voice than if you view it as prose, which is sort of how the book is laid out. So I would recommend that one as well. Let's talk about some of the obvious ones that I don't own. Let's do The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta and anything by Elizabeth Acevedo. These are both authors who write in verse, and so you can read that with your eyes and understand that it's a poem and it potentially has some sort of rhythm, but you're not really going to feel it. Whereas if someone is telling you the story, not only will you be able to engage with it differently, but they are sort of directing your engagement with it. So they're putting in all of the places that you should pause or where you should speed up. Like these are things birthed from their mind as verse. So hearing it the way the author intended it is obviously the best experience. Which reminds me also of On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This one features a girl who is trying to become a rapper, and so there's a bunch of portions in here where she's rapping, and those portions are nearly as impactful if you just hear them in my voice, in my head, but the audiobook narrator here does a great job. Speaking of in verse, if you're reading anything by Shakespeare, you need the audiobook version for it. I have listened to a number of BBC productions of things. Twelfth Night comes to mind. Taming of the Shrew, I think, is the other one that I did via that. These are plays, so anytime you're doing a play, you need people to say the words to you. They're not intended to be books, so they should not be consumed as books, in my opinion. And so the audiobook is a nice bridge between just a book and a live theater production. The BBC productions also are very high quality, lots of effort, lots of like background noises and atmosphere setting and full casts always. They're such good audiobooks. Anytime you have the opportunity to do that, I would definitely say you must. Next up is Sadie by Courtney Summers. I have mentioned this book a couple of times for this reason. You need the audiobook here because Sadie has a stutter. And so in the book, it's written with like a bunch of repeating letters and then the words that she's trying to say, but you don't feel it. You don't feel Sadie fighting to try to be able to say these words, to convince people that like she knows what she's talking about. If you're just reading it with your eyes, you're jumping to the word that she's saying, but there's none of that build up to get there, and it sort of removes Sadie's stutter as much of a component of her at all. So this one, I think the audiobook is absolutely necessary. This is a favorite of all time for me. Then I wanted to mention 56 Days because this is a book set in Ireland during COVID. It's a mystery thriller. It was just all right for me, but you need to listen to this one by audio because it is in Ireland and you will forget. Unless you have an Irish person blasting their sweet accent into your ears, it's not going to feel like a very Irish story. This is applicable to a lot of accents, a lot of countries. Often, if it's not an accent I'm super familiar with too, I will have to slow it down to catch all of the nuances that I might not have trained my ear to do, but Irish accents, you gotta love them. Of course, memoirs are also a popular category for things that have an extra layer with an audiobook if your memoir is being narrated by the person that it's about. I want to specifically call out Jennette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died because there's a part in this book where she cries. She can't make it through the words that she's already written, and that is the moment of the book for me. And if you didn't listen to the audio, you have no idea what it is because she didn't choke up in the same way for you. Whereas like Jennette and I have a bond now because of this. So a lot of memoirs are like that. That's just the one that specifically was really impactful for me. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Mistborn. There is a regular audiobook for this that's done by one narrator that's very good, putting in there all that audiobook narrator, but I have to call out the graphic audio version of this. It is full cast, full sound effects, and it's written, not written, performed as though there is no prose. So anytime that prose is included, it's actually going to be included in dialogue as much as it can. There is sort of a narrator of the story, but anytime there's like a he sighed or a she cried, it'll be included in the sounds and not as a description. Hopefully I'm explaining that correctly. The Mistborn ones are incredible. I know that Graphic Audio has a bunch of books that they've done. They're so high effort and I can't recommend them enough. It's going to be a very different experience if you're not reading it that way, but also I wouldn't judge you if you think that's cheating. There is definitely a small element there, but if you have any interest, please give it a try. You will have a strong opinion one way or another, I can guarantee that. And then the final book I want to shout out is a book about audiobooks. Thanks for Listening by Julia Whelan. This is a book written by an audiobook narrator, and the main character in it is an audiobook narrator, and they talk about how they narrate audiobooks and how they do accents, and it's fascinating. But then also Julia Whelan, one of my favorite audiobook narrators, is narrating the whole thing, doing the whole cast, doing all of the accents, talking about how her accents or speaking is perceived by other people. It's absolutely fascinating, and if you have any interest in audiobooks whatsoever, it is an absolute must. Definitely a tearjerker and one of my favorite things, and I'm so hopeful that Julia Whelan will come out with something else soon. Alright, those are all of the audiobooks that I had to mention. If you have any suggestions of audiobooks where they contain a little je ne sais quoi, please put them down below. I'm always looking for recommendations. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you very soon in another video. Bye!